Good evening, and it is Monday here when I'm taping this. I don't know when it'll be when you're watching it, but I welcome you whenever it is because truth is absolute, eternal, and unchanging. So what we share today will be just as relevant tomorrow, the next day, 10 years, even 100 years. It's hard to imagine that big a piece. Well, this is our study group on Rise of the False Gods, and I hope you're enjoying it. This is, golly, it's about, I think, episode 24 or something, and we're only on page 49. But that's okay, because we want to really be able to enjoy everything. Also, I would like to remind you, if you don't know or tell you, today is a special day. Today is, in the Jewish faith, Yom Kippur. And it is a day that the sins are symbolically, in the tradition, put onto a goat, which is then sent off to take the sins away, and then they have a festival, I believe, with sacrificing a blemish, a goat without blemish as a sacrifice. I apologize to my Jewish friends that I'm rusty on that today. I'm actually a little sleepy. We had girls' weekend this past weekend, and it was amazing. It was so it was so wonderful that today I had to leave work early and come back and fall out on the couch and sleep for 3 hours. I mean, that's how exhausted I was. The whole focus of Girls' Weekend this year was to relax and to let go. You know, it was kind of like a weekend Sabbath. And it was a very unique Sabbath because we were all different people, different ages. We were being socially distanced and COVID cautious. So it was quite remarkable. And in the course of the weekend, we watched a movie together. It's called Lost Horizon, and it was made in 1937. And it was, it's the story of a man who discovers Shangri-La. And after the movie was over, everyone was saying together, yes, yes, that could have been written today. It could have been written for right now. And if you haven't seen it, I believe they've got it on Prime right now. If it's either free for Amazon Prime or very small amount of money. But Lost Horizon, it is phenomenal, and it is filled with truth. And it rather proves what I said earlier about truth is absolute, eternal, and unchanging. Now, you see, we change. We change and grow as we come into alignment with truth. But truth itself doesn't change. We just come into alignment. And that's what we're doing. You know, that movie was written 1936 or something. It's based on a book that was written earlier. But they were coming into World War II. And many of the challenges we are having now, we were having then. And you go, oh my God, here we go again. Do we have to go there again? No, because Lord willing, in the decades since we were there, we have become wiser and moved forward more and developed more spiritually. That is the hope. And like, golly, why am I losing her name? Barbara Marx Hubbard said, we are in a birthing process. And the birthing process will either be very peaceful and like a Lamaze process, or it will be very painful, like a breech birth. And think about it. A breech birth is backward. It's when the baby comes out feet first, or what's even worse, butt first. I think we're kind of headed toward a breech birth. But the point is, we are headed for a new birth and a new life. And we can make the difference. Remember, if we don't get our lesson learned, we get an opportunity. So we don't look at it as a punishment, but an opportunity to change. And I pray that I can even be a little part of that as I'm with you going through this, which will probably be quite a long time based on the level of our progress through the book. But I'm hoping I'm presenting it in a way that you can digest it. And it's like ingest it now. And when you're reading the book, if you have it, and I encourage you to get it if you're not, if you're on Amazon Prime, you can get it free. You can get it on Kindle for like $4.99, or you could buy the book. And of course, as you can see, and I've said many times, when we have the book, we can write our notes and everything. And so that's a pretty good thing. If you contact me, I will send you a free copy of the book. So you can private message me on Facebook, or you can email me, reveille@aol.com, reveille@aol.com. Please know that I'm so happy you're here with me tonight. Feel free to leave comments or ask questions. I may see them, I may not as we're going through our thing, but I will get to them after we're done. So thank you for being here. And today we're looking at You Shall Not Steal. But I would like to add to it, in truth, you cannot steal. We are currently beginning, believe it or not, at the top, the first full paragraph on page 49 in the print version. I know it's a little off on Kindle, but you'll be able to pick it up as we go along. It begins with, You shall not steal. It's clear. We shouldn't take what isn't ours, because what isn't ours by right of consciousness will never be ours. Along with that, it underscores that we don't think we deserve ours, or we're being punished and we don't have ours, or God likes someone else best, you know. I was for many years, I was the middle child. And that was the one that always feels like the older child has benefits because they are older, and the younger child had benefits because they were the baby. And here the middle child always is. Don't know if you're a middle child, but you may have experienced what I experienced as a kid. And that didn't make it right. My parents loved us all equally. But to my little human mind, I did not see myself that way. As a matter of fact, sometimes I noticed there seemed to be preferential giving to either my sister or my brother, who at that time we called the Crown Prince. And it was just our stuff, you know? We got to learn to laugh at our stuff, because if we take ourselves too seriously, we'll never be able to lighten up. So, anyway, that's why we're only on page 49, because I take these little side trips. I hope you enjoy them. Okay, basically, you can't take what's not yours, because it will never be yours by right of consciousness. Nor will it be right by right of energy. Everything is energy. And when we take something that is not ours, we cannot not know that. You know, it's like if you see something, you say, oh, I can't not see that. Sometimes if we think something, we say, oh, I cannot not think that. Which, as you know, I say, take that thought and throw it in the pool of transformation. Okay. Most of us work hard for our money and use it to buy things we want or require for life. So if someone steals what we've worked so hard for and what we love, and I know you're not supposed to love stuff, okay? We love God and we love each other, and stuff is fun to have. You know, one of the reasons I love, or should I use that word? Let's call it little L love, which is love in the human understanding. Most of the things I love have an attachment to a memory. We talked about it the other day when I showed you the plaster of Paris plate that I have from my daughter that is like 43 years old now. It's, but it means everything to me. When we start thinking we need stuff, and that stuff, whether it's ours or not, by right of consciousness, it's never really ours. By right of spiritual principle, it is never ours either. We're going to get into that a little bit more. So, if someone steals what we've worked so hard for and love, we suffer. And when we suffer, there is what we call sin. And it's a negation of the divine idea that God will provide for all of us, that there is plenty and that God will provide, and part of our job is being a channel through which God's love provides. So you see the difference between taking what isn't ours and giving joyfully, sharing that it's really not ours, it's ours because we have received it and have the ability to let it go. Think about that. And where does it all happen? It all happens in our minds. Think on that. Consider universal energy flowing as the blood that courses through our body. The blood courses through, and that way every cell, every fiber, every tissue of our body receives the nourishment that it needs. So there's this universal energy that is supposed to be flowing and giving. And when that universal energy is impaired, when it is blocked, we are actually putting ourselves and others in a position of lack and limitation. Think about hardening of the arteries when the blood, the energy can not flow through, and that could lead to death, So, and that's a part, again, acquisitiveness, where we're taking and taking and taking, whether it's ours or not, and we're not giving and giving and giving. We have stopped the process of circulation. Any interruption to the flow negatively affects the whole body. And if we look at ourselves as the body of humankind, the oneness of humankind, if you steal from one part, you steal from the whole. God has provided abundance for everyone. Taking what is not ours, again, interrupts the flow and exposes an error belief in lack and limitation. Instead of saying, I want your stuff, we should know that God will provide us our stuff. So, taking what is, it exposes the error, okay, blah, 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 blah. This negates in our mind God's abundant provision. Because we are one, we cannot steal from another without ultimately stealing from ourselves. Isn't that interesting? that if we steal from others, we steal from ourselves. Think of that flow of energy again. When we are out of the flow and we take from others, a buildup happens. So that circulation that would actually go around and come back to us cannot come back to us because we have blocked the flow of the energy. Stealing is putting ourselves before the good of the whole, what we want. And I'll bet if I asked you for an example of thinking of ourselves before thinking of others, we can easily see it in what happened when COVID first struck and nobody could get toilet paper. Instead of saying, if we share equally, we will all have toilet paper and there will be plenty of toilet paper for everyone, people took it and hoarded it. I remember the story about the man who took, was it 1700 or 17,000, whatever, it must have been just $1,700 worth of sanitizer. And his plan was to sell it. And by what I call the grace of God, which I'm sure he didn't call the grace of God, he got nabbed for it and had to donate it. That's what I call divine order. And the grace of it would be if he learned a lesson, if he learned that's not the right way to do things. Ultimately, as Eric Butterworth said, we cannot break spiritual law, but we can break ourselves against it. Okay. Me first, my first, mine first is a blockage to the universal flow and will eventually harm us. Theft is insidious, it is wily, and it is easy to rationalize or to justify. A thief comes from a me first mentality. What we want is more important than anything, and I'd add, or anyone else. There is little support available to avoid conscious or unconscious theft. Think about the television commercials we watch. Lawyers suggest you can get huge sums of money from an illness or injury. Now, who are they looking out for? They're looking out for getting a piece of this action of which is very often called a nuisance lawsuit. It's not a valid lawsuit because they take thousands and millions of dollars that they take advantage of a company. I mean, that again, that is stealing. And the attorneys, the firms that advertise that, they are therefore participants in it. Because they are participants in it, they are a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. And what are they appealing to? They're taking someone's pain and suffering and they're trying to appeal to the person's greed, not their need. If we more attended to a person's need than their greed, and I think if you willfully caused someone else's injury or illness, I think that it would only be right to have insurance to pay for that person's expenses, but not to have an exorbitant settlement out of it that also lines the pockets of an attorney, probably of questionable intention. It's stealing. You know what I always loved? One of my secondary things that what I wanted to be when I grew up, if that ever happens, I wanted to be one of those people that catches people in insurance fraud. To this day, that appeals to me. You know, they show the stories of the people going around and finding a person who can't, goes around with a, what do you call it? They go around with a sling on all during the day, and then at night they go bowling with the same arm. You know, I always used to want to be one of those and to catch someone in the act. So much from that. But you know, the thing is, to me, I'm always about coming back to what's right and true and justice. Okay, I'm just going to, I can't read of all, I'm sorry, I have a comment I can't read on, but I will address it later. It's just doesn't show up well on my screen. But whoever's post that is, I will get back to you as soon as our group is over, shortly around there. Okay, so it's hard to avoid it, as I said earlier. There's little support for not taking advantage because our lower nature is being appealed to, that we deserve that, you know. When my great-grandson was born, he has a left ventricle, oh God, what he is he has half a heart. And by the grace of God and the medical profession's research and progress, he is with us today. A beautiful 6-year-old, intelligent, wise, gorgeous boy. Oh, that's grandmother talk. But he is with us because of our progress. However, his life was put at greater danger because he was, when they did the sonogram, the doctor, the obstetrician said, well, we can't see his whole heart, but it's probably just the way he's sleeping. It's nothing to worry about the way he's laying. So later on, they did a second one. And the result that happened was the same. Now, wouldn't one think one would put one and one together and get two? But it, again, was overlooked. When he was born and probably 12 to 14 hours old, he started to turn blue. And they decided that instead of looking at his obstetrical records, or whatever you call them, they decided he had a bacterial infection and took him up to Hartford Hospital's pediatric intensive care. And then they decided, oh, he has this heart issue. Now, if anything had happened to him, there was nothing you could do about it, but recognizing it earlier could have made a huge difference. Could we have sued? Maybe. Would that have made it any better? No. But I do think it's important to speak our truth, but not take advantage in the name of greed. Do you understand what I'm saying? Are you getting that some things it can make better? That if you have to sue someone to get money to take care of you for your life, if you were injured, you know, by another party. But when we do it for greed, it's wrong. So this is why we're in a constant state of needing to balance our energy, that circulation that goes through. We don't always see theft for what it is. Consider these various forms of stealing. I think just about everybody knows somebody who, back in the day, because I don't think they have that option anymore, people used to steal cable. They found a way to take the cable from someone else's, like in an apartment, they'd kind of plug into someone else's cable, and so they would kind of steal it. Now, it didn't impact the other person's cable. They took it, but stealing is stealing is stealing, and it costs us all. We'll talk about that in a minute. There's employee theft. We touched on that a bit when we take things home. Well, they got 1,000,000 pencils. They don't need that, so I'm going to take that. Do you realize that if you're goofing off at work, that you're supposed to be doing your work and you're kind of dawdling and, not doing your business, that's stealing from your boss, from a company. Whenever I work for a company, I always like to look at it as if I owned that company and how I would want my employees to be. Okay, I gotta hurry because we're getting close to our 30 minutes. Tax fraud. So if you cheat on your taxes, you are not paying your fair share of our combined expenses, okay? Now, I'm retired, so I don't pay taxes on my Social Security. But on my little part-time job, well, it's not a part-time job, but my little job at the campground, I do pay taxes on that. And I think if you've got an income coming in, you have to pay your fair share. And I did pay my fair share on those taxes, my Social Security tax that I get to take advantage of now. And when I say take advantage, I don't mean take advantage of, like cheat it. And I don't think there's a way I can cheat it. I'm not even going to give it a moment's thought. Claiming invalid deductions. This is all in the book. So if you're kind of not clear about what I'm saying, you can find it there. Then of course we got the insurance fraud, buying pirated music or videos. I had a pirated copy of a movie. It was E.T., and it was a pretty crummy copy, and I never felt good about that. Now, that was probably, maybe 50 years ago. But that was before I really understand the principles behind why we don't steal. Because eventually it's going to bite us in the butt, and it's not going to be God punishing. It's going to be like Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, said, we are not punished for our sins. We are punished by our sins. So it's all a matter of consciousness. Also, not abiding in copyright. Now, I cannot say I never broke a copyright rule. In other words, if I had a song I really, really wanted to use for our service, I did everything in my power to find the copyright, to find out how to use it. And if I absolutely, after my best efforts, couldn't find it, and I felt that this was music that artist, that composer would want people to hear, or, that to move them spiritually, I used the music. Do you know, even on the cover of the book, with this magnificent picture, which shows that temptation that's always there, I tried for 2 years as I was writing the book to find the copyright for the book, and I couldn't. So in the front of the book, I have written, note, cover art. The beautiful image on the cover of this book was found in a Google search for images marked for reuse without copyright permission required. While I searched diligently and knew I had that loophole, I'm adding that now, I could not find its source. So I do want to acknowledge the creator of the perfect image to express the essence of the message I wanted to convey. I hope that artist who, if he shows up and says, hey, you got my picture on your book, I'll thank him for it and pray that he will understand how hard I work to stay in alignment with copyright. And I think because of my effort. So getting back to when we steal, when it's a matter of any form of taking what is not ours, and then you get into the ethics of, if you are starving, would you steal a loaf of bread? I'd probably be more likely to ask if I'd beg for it before I'd steal it. But I can't say if I wasn't starving, I wouldn't walk past an unattended farm market and grab an apple. I can't guarantee that. I'm not there yet. But I'm working on it. If we steal cable, if we do insurance fraud, if we steal from our employer, we are making their expenses higher. And when we have a medical malpractice suit, that doctor, that hospital has to have malpractice insurance. And as nuisance lawsuits are filed and won, that's one, not for real one, the insurance goes up, the malpractice insurance goes up. When stores experience theft, they have to boost the prices to pay for the theft. When people steal cable, we need to pay higher prices for the cable, so their higher prices are passed on to us. So you see, it's not a matter of whether or not you can steal or should steal. It's that in truth, it's not possible to steal. Sooner or later, it'll come back and it'll bite us on the butt. So I hope you enjoyed and got some good out of that. But it's time to toddle. 2 minutes over, but I hope you will forgive me for that. And tomorrow, what shall we be doing tomorrow? Tomorrow we are going to do It's a Goodie. You shall not bear false witness. Okay. Not going further till tomorrow. Hope I see you then. God bless and have a great night. Bye-bye.